This is a video about my Vistalite kit. This is a 73-ish. I got this. It would be 4 years ago this winter. It was a one-owner kit. That guy had it up on Craigslist, and it was a little beat up. The shells, the integrity of the shells was good and everything. Of course, he had, like everybody did back then, he pulled the bottom heads off, and he had lost all the the hoops and the the tension screws and everything, of course. So, but the integrity of the kit was in good shape, and it had symbols. So when I had got it, it had the 14 by 24 kit. So it's a Pro Beat, okay? So it's a Pro Beat. So that consisted of a 14 by 24 kick drum, 10 by 13 rack, which I don't have right now, a 10 by 14 rack, which is this one here, and the 16 by 16 floor tom with a 5 by 14 snare. So he did have the matching snare. I did at one point have the matching snare. I eventually sold it. Also, it came with cymbals. So I paid six or $700. It had cheap Zilco hi-hat cymbals, which were not the good Zilcos. There are good Zilcos. These are the cheap ones. They're like student level, I guess. They don't sound good. There's great practice cymbals though. It had like two 18-inch crashes. One which my oldest one and only son has seemed to have taken. I haven't seen it in like 3 years. But it did have like a 16 crash and an 18 crash and a 20-inch ride cymbal. So overall, I didn't get a bad price on it, but for the amount of work and money I had to put into it to get going, I probably overpaid. Now, whenever I go out and buy a vintage drum set, I'm always looking at what I have to put into it and what it's going to cost me to put into it and what I can get out of it. With what I put into this drum set, with new heads, top and bottom, searching down some period correct replacements and actually having to, pay some money for that. And I actually searched for period correct bottom hoops. I think I only found one. It's actually not on the drum you see here. So, I mean, the hoops on two of these are brand new. And heads and everything, I don't think I could. I'm pretty sure there's no way I could even make a profit on this drum set. So you got to be careful if you're buying drums to flip. Lesson learned. Nowadays, ever since then, whenever I buy a kit and go to flip it, I almost always come close to doubling my money because I'm not gonna, spend a bunch of money on a drum set that actually I don't plan on keeping to lose money. So anyways, I'm getting off track here. When I got these home, I pulled them apart. I pulled all the hardware off. I polished each lug individually. I didn't use steel wool for you guys out there, but I polished each lug individually. I got all the rust off. Some of the hoops were rusty, so I took aluminum foil and rubbed it and got a lot of the surface rust off. Gave them a good bath, and when I got them put back together, I mean, they looked surprisingly good. There are some scratches. I mean, the drum set is, I think I said it's a 73, so it's 44. It's 73-ish. We don't know. So it could be 42 years old. It could be 44 years old. It could be 45 years old. We're not exactly sure. I guess, maybe it could be 45. But math is not my stronger suit. So the reason I say it's a 73 is because of this book right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's by a gentleman named Richard Gere, and he had actually did a thesis of he had drummers from all over the world that owned Ludwig drums with date stamps on the interiors send in what the date stamp was to him and what the serial number said, so he could get an accurate picture of serial numbers versus date stamps. Of course, Vistalites don't have a date stamp on the inside because it's a see-through drum. That wouldn't look very good. So all you could go by is what the serial number says. And the serial number for these is 113. Now, if you look on the Ludwig site, their serial number guide, it would put these at 76. But the problem is they're missing a couple years on their site. So what this gentleman did, like I said, he went through and he was able to get somewhat of a more accurate estimate. There's no exact way to date a drum by a serial number. You have to have a date stamp, okay? Because Ludwig was famous for just using whatever they had around. So they could have a shell date stamp 72 that had been sitting in their back room for a couple years. It just got pulled back out in 74, and they throw a 74 badge on it, okay? So there's no way to exactly tell what year a Ludwig drum set is. But I think we can get a reasonable estimate that these are 73s. Now, the 18-inch, the 16 by 18, I added later on. I bought it a year later. And if you look, I'll put a picture up. But if you look at the two between the 16 and the 18, there is a definite difference in the color of the shell. If you notice, it's a little more cloudy. Now, I've gone through this drum with a fine-tooth comb, and I don't think it's counterfeit. There's probably somebody out there that I know there's guys out there that know a lot more than me, but based on what I see on the badge and the seam, it looks like a legitimate 70s Ludwig floor tom with the shell that would be made by Cadillac at the time. So I don't think it's counterfeit, and the badge looks good. There is a way to tell with the badges too, but that's a whole nother video. So, let's see here. So, anyways, like I said, I got rid of the snare drum. I'm not a fan of the snare. So, as far as tuning these drums go, I have these tuned similar to what John Bonham, rest his soul, tuned his drums to. Now, I've gotten arguments with people before that say he tuned them low. You don't know what you're talking about. There is several sources that said he tuned his drums high, much like the big band drummers of the time. So, to give you an idea of what this kit sounds like, I do not have my close mics on right now. All I got are the overheads, the two overheads, and a kick drum mic. So, and the snare drum. Sorry, the snare drum. Forgot about the snare drum. The snare drum is actually, it's a 50th anniversary Ludwig Superphonic. It's a 6.5 by 14. I didn't have a 6.5 by 14. And the guy at Interstate Music, I'm sure some of you get the Interstate catalog. Steve, who runs the drum department, he sent me a message one day, and he said, "Hey, man," he goes, "I know you like Ludwigs," and he goes, "We're getting these 50th anniversary supers in, and they're only going to make 150 of the 6.5 and 150 of the 5s." He goes, "Dude, would you want one?" And I'm like, "Dude, those got to be really expensive." And what it turns out is, I don't remember exactly what I paid for it. I'd have to look, but it wasn't that much more than what I'd been seeing a lot of the blue olive badge or whatever online. So I'm like, you know what? Allegedly, this thing's going to be really collectible. They only made 150 of them, so I snapped it up. So anyways, what the drums sound like I said, I got them tuned high. Similar to what Bonham tuned them to. And here comes, I could see the Facebook comments coming now. They sound like crap. Yeah. They don't sound they don't sound that good. These drums don't sound that good. All right? They were made to be loud. If there's a YouTube channel called Zeppelin Bootlegs, and there is a board source tape of Zeppelin at the Chicago Stadium in 73, where and he was using the Vistalites. And when they do Moby Dick, my God, his drums sound terrible. But when you run them through compressors and put a little effects on and EQ them, all right, they can sound pretty cool, okay? But how they sound like this, I'm not gonna put any effects. I might put a tad bit of compression on in post, but I'm not gonna EQ. I'm not gonna put any reverb on or anything like that. What you're going to hear is what these drums sound like in this room. And obviously, this is my basement, so this isn't an ideal room, but you'll get an idea. So I'll just go around the toms so you can hear what everything sounds like, okay? You'll notice, I don't know if you can hear it, but I have the bottom head pitched up slightly higher from the top head. And I actually, I dropped the tuning in these a little bit, so they're not as high as I had them before. And you can hear the tone controls actually rattling. That's why a lot of guys actually pull the tone controls out. All right, and then the snare drum here. Oh, the kick drum. Kick drum sounds good. I got a kick board on it, so it really beefs it up. All right. All right. Hope you like this video. Click the little subscribe thing up in the corner. Talk to you guys later.